Hi, this is Siddharth and welcome to another coffee break tutorial on Android. In this one single video, you are going to master how to animate vector drawables or the vector graphics. And trust me, if you watch this video till the end, you are going to get a clear understanding of how to animate vectors with backward compatibility. Now, you can animate drawables in two different ways. The first is by using the frame animation, where we animate images in sequence. And this is covered in a separate video. You can find the link to the video in the description. The other way is by animating vector drawables, by using a special class of AnimatedVectorDrawable. And this is our current video objective. And this class, AnimatedVectorDrawable, lets you animate the properties of a vector file. So this kind of animations are mainly used on icons. And AnimatedVectorDrawable is a fire and forget animation, which means it is a very simple API that just start and stop an animation, so you don't have much control over its progress. And these are the few potential examples of what you can achieve using this animation. So let's take a look at the important key points of this class. Well, this class was introduced in API 21, and it is used to animate the properties of a vector drawable beautifully and easily. Using this animation, you can rotate, scale, translate, draw paths, do path morphing. So in short, you can do a lot more things on a vector using this class of AnimatedVectorDrawable. Starting from API 25, that is Android Nougat, AnimatedVectorDrawable runs on RenderThread. And on earlier APIs, this class used to run on UIThread. Which means, starting from API 25, the animations in AnimatedVectorDrawable can remain smooth even when there is a heavy workload on the main UI thread. To enable backward compatibility below API 21, you can use AnimatedVectorDrawableCompat class, so as to extend support to devices running on API 11 or higher. To implement AnimatedVectorDrawable, you at least need 3 XML tags. The first one is AnimatedVector, which represents an animated vector drawable. The second tag is a vector, which represents a vector drawable. And the third tag is objectAnimator, which represents animations. Note that you can have multiple object animators based on how many animations you want to apply on your vector. Now the purpose of this animated vector is to apply this animation on our vector drawable. So let's see how to prepare these XML resources and use them within files. You can prepare resources for animated vector drawable in two ways. In the first way, you need at least 3 XML files. The first file will be in drawable folder and will define your vector graphic. Note that this is not the actual code of a vector. Right now I am just showing you those attributes that are worth to note as of now. The second file will be in Animator directory and will define what animation you want to apply on your vector. The third file will be in Drawable folder, where we will define our animated vector. Well, this tag will be used to link our animation file with our vector file. So under the target tag, we have name as cross icon, which is the same name we have defined for our vector here. Next, for the animation attribute, we have referenced our animator file, which is present here. Now moving on, in the second approach, you can merge all of these 3 files into a single file. So here we just need one file within drawable folder. The root tag is again animated vector. The vector file which you can see here is now present here. Next is the code for animation, which you can find it here. Finally, within the target tag on this vector icon, we are applying this rotate animation. For the demo, I will use a very simple example. I will use this tick icon and slowly morph it to a cross icon like this. During path morphing, the icon will rotate as well. Next, I will show you how to perform the reverse animation. That is, from this cross icon, slowly get back to the tick icon from where it started. Now to start implementing this animation, you first need to get this starting vector icon, which is our tick icon, along with the ending vector, which is our cross icon. Usually, to use such animation in your live project, you would ask a designer of your team to provide you the SVG files for both start and end vectors. He might use tools such as Sketch or Illustrator to get the icons. Now SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, which is the actual vector format. But in Android, this format is not supported. So you need to convert it into Vector Drawables using the Vector Asset Studio present in Android Studio. Based on your preference, you can use some online tools to convert SVG into Android vectors. Now since our objective is to understand the basics of animated vector, so there is no need to look for a designer around you. Now, if you want to code along with me, then beforehand, create a new project with an empty activity. And make sure you give the package name as com.striyang.animationsdemo so that we both are on the same page. And then, please download the gist files. Well, the link is in the description. And using these gist files, you can update your project and get started very quickly. Such as initially, I want you to copy the content of this activity main.xml and update your existing activity main.xml in your project. Once you do it, you will get an image view at the center in this layout file, where we will put our vector and apply animation to it. To implement such animation in Android Studio, let us create the check icon and cross icon, both in the form of vector drawables. Go to the clip art and look for the check icon. Just rename it to IC_check. Change the color to 999999 and then add it to your project. Once you do it, you will get this code. Here I will make some changes. I will remove the tint attribute and instead use the fill color here as 99999. Great. Repeat the same step for the cross icon. Well, we don't have a cross icon here, so I will choose the close icon. Rename the file and add it to your project. Repeat the same thing for tint and fill color attribute for this icon. Now if you notice, for each of the vector drawable, this part data attribute defines how to draw this image. Similarly, for this iccheck.xml, we have this part data that defines how to draw this vector. Now from this tick icon, I want to morph to this close icon. So how to do it? Well, we have a free online tool available, ShapeShifter.design. Special thanks to Alex Lockwood, who is the creator of this tool. So in this tool, I will import this iccheck.xml. So just drag and drop this vector to this tool. Once you do it, select Add Layers. So here is my vector and this is the path to draw this vector. And all the attributes you will find here in this panel. So let us add some animation to it. Select the path and click on this Add New Animation. Well, there are a lot of options that you can use to animate. Part data is a bit tricky, but trust me, it gives you a seamless animation and you will love it. Once you select it, you will find your animation in your timeline. And on the right in the panel, you have to modify your animation, such as this from value represent the part data of your current check icon, which is exactly same as what we have here in the Android Studio. Now next we have toValue, which will be the ending point of our animation. As per our objective, our ending point is actually this cross icon or the close icon. So I will simply copy the part data of this icon and place it here in the toValue. Just replace the commands. But here it shows some error. Why? Because while morphing vectors, the number of commands that creates your current icon should exactly match with the target icon to which you want to morph your image. What I want to say is the number of commands defined for this tick icon or the check icon should exactly be same as the number of commands present here in the part data of this cross icon. But unfortunately in our case, the number of commands are different in both the case. But don't worry, ShapeShifter tool allows you to resolve this issue. Just click on this edit icon. It will show you the starting and ending position. These blue icons are showing you the number of commands present in both the case, which is of course in both the case are different. So if you click on this magic button, then it will automatically add the missing commands or the coordinates which you can see yourself as the red points. If you play the animation right now, well, it was pretty fast. Let us use this slow motion. Play the animation again. You will find some weird kind of animation. Go back and let us increase the duration of the animation to 300 and let's play it again. Well, you will find that though our animation is working, but it is looking pretty weird. It is not as I was expecting. And I am sure you won't like to put it in your live project too. So what is the solution for this? Well, the solution to this will be to sit with the designer of your team and prepare the SVG file for both the icons. And trust me, if you like to play with vectors, then you can do it yourself. It will indeed take some time, but the result will be flawless. Now, as per my requirement, I have got two SVG files. And now, I need to convert them into supported vector files which can be used in our project. So, from the downloaded gist files, you will get these two vector files, such as ICCheck and ICClose. Just copy these two, and in your project, just delete these two old files and replace them with the new one. So if you take a look at the code of these two vectors, you will find that the number of commands are exactly same, such as these command and these commands. And both of these paths are enclosed within a group in both the vectors. So we are going to apply the rotate animation on this whole group. And while rotating, we will morph the path between these two icons. So let's do it. So again, go to the same website and then import the same iccheck.xml, which is our drawable. Now as per our requirement, I want to apply the rotate animation on this group. So on this group, I will add the rotate animation. You can adjust the time, apply some interpolator of your own choice, and define the rotation value. I will rotate it to 180 degree. So if you play the animation right now, our drawable is rotating 180 degree. So while rotation, I also want to morph the image to the cross icon. So I will apply one more animation to our vector. So just add the new animation. I will apply the part data, decide the start time and end time, select the interpolator of your own choice, and now define the from value. Well, this from value will represent the check icon or the tick icon which is present here. And our target values should be the commands of this cross icon which is present within the part data here. Just copy these values and paste it here. Perfect. So if you run this animation, you will find the seamless transition from check icon to close icon. How cool is that? Play it again. Awesome. Now it's time to export our animation. Well, for our application, we want this animated vector drawable. Once you download it, paste that animation in your drawable folder. Well, if you want, you can rename the file such as avd check to close. So in this file, you will find that we have vector, animator, also the animated vector within the same file. Well, having all the animators, vectors and animated vector within the same file is made possible by using the AAPT schema. This XML bundle format requires the build tools of 24 and above, which I am sure you all are using in your project right now. So this vector represents the check icon, and on this icon we are applying some animation, such as the rotate animation on the whole group. And then we are morphing the path from these values to the cross icon part data. Well, here let us modify the duration of the animation. Let's make it 1 second. Now proceeding in your activity main.xml, on this image view, let us set the image source as @drawable avd check to close. Once you do it in your main activity.kt, let us write some code to implement our animation. On your image view, let us set a onClick listener, on click of which a method will be executed. Let us set the image resource as our animated vector, which we just defined here. From this image view, get the drawable and cast it to AnimatedVectorDrawable and assign it to a variable avd check to close. And finally, let us start the animation. Let us run our application. Click on this image. Just now we saw the check icon getting transformed into the cross icon, and it was really a flawless animation. Now when I click on this icon again, it again repeats the same animation, but on click of this icon I want the reverse animation, that is, this cross icon should get transformed into the check icon. So let us perform the reverse animation. Well, the steps to perform the reverse animation will be totally same, and we are going to use the same ShapeShifter tool. In this tool of ShapeShifter, from the same downloaded gist files, just import this iclose.xml. You can drag and drop it. Once you do it in your group layer, just apply the animation, such as the rotate animation. So here is our rotate animation with these properties. So here I am rotating it anti-clockwise. And then I have applied another animation to this cross path, such as this path data. So here is the animation. And these are the properties. This path belongs to the close icon, and this path belongs to the check icon. If you run the animation, you will find from close to check icon. Once done, you can export the file. So in this file, you will again get this animated vector as a root tag. And then we have the code for our vector cross icon. Down below, we have these applied animations. Now instead of using one file, you can actually extract these resources into different files. For example, you can extract this close vector and put it in the drawable folder. So in my Android Studio, I already have iclose.xml in place, whose code is exactly same as what you can see here. Also, you can extract these two animators and put it as separate files in animation resource directory. Again, from the gist files, copy these two files, that is close to check.xml and rotate close to check.xml. And then within your resource folder, just create this animator directory and paste those two files. The first one is responsible to morph the path from close icon to check icon, and the second animator is responsible to rotate the vector anti-clockwise. Now our third file will be the animated vector itself, which will apply these two animations on our vector iclose.xml. So from our gist files, just copy this avd close to check xml file and paste it in your drawable folder. So here is the file, which looks pretty clean. The objective of this file is to define the target name on which you want to apply this animation. And remember, this target name equal to cross is exactly the same name that we have defined within our iclose.xml for this path tag here. Similarly, for this group, we have the name of group tick cross. And on this group, we are applying the rotate animation. So I will use this name within my animated vector drawable, which you can find here. And on this target, we are applying the rotate animation, which we have defined here. Quite simple, isn't it? So now our last step will be inside our main activity. Here I will declare a flag that will help us to toggle the animation, and then call a function to apply the reverse animation. So within this function, the code to define the animation will be totally same, except that the name of the animated vector will be different, such as avd underscore close to check. Run the application, click on the image, Perform the reverse animation. Great. Working perfectly fine. Now before I end this video, you might think that initially I have applied the animation using just one file. But for the reverse animation, that is from cross icon to check icon or the tick icon, I am using multiple files. So which one is better way to perform animation? Well, the answer is it depends on your need. Suppose in future you want to reuse this animator or this animator or this icon. So in that case, you can follow what we saw in this current video. Perform animation using different files, right? But if you are sure that you are not going to use this vector or these animators, then you can go for this single file technique. So I hope now you know the difference between these two techniques. Also, since we have defined this vector already in this file, so we no longer need this iccheck.xml. We can now delete this file. Great. And at any point of time, if you want to refer to multiple file technique or single XML file technique, then of course you can revisit this slide. On both sides, I have mentioned both the techniques using the same example. So this slide is like a summary for both the techniques. Fine. Now let us move to the last part of this video. That is backward compatibility. When it comes to backward compatibility of animated vectors, you need to do some changes in your project. Just for a quick recap, animated vectors were introduced in API 21, that is Android Lollipop. But it allows you to use the class of AnimatedVectorDrawableCompat. Using this class, you can extend support to devices running on API 11 or higher. Apart from using this class, there are a couple of changes that you need to do in your project. Such as, in your application level Gradle file, add this statement to use vector support libraries. And then you can decrease your minimum SDK version below 21. Next, in your layout file, while referencing the vector drawable, use sourceCompat attribute, which is already in place. Along with, you have to use app namespace, which is the namespace defined here. Next, in your code, instead of using AnimatedVectorDrawable, you have to use AnimatedVectorDrawableCompat class. And here as well, change it to AnimatedVectorDrawableCompat, which belongs to support library. Once you are done, you are good to go. If you run the application in the lower API version, you will get the same result. So yes, that was pretty much it for this video. And if you want to explore more on what are vectors in detail, then you must watch my dedicated video on vectors. Again, the link is in the description. Also, I have created a separate video on raster drawables versus vector drawables and how and when to use them. And I think this will also be a great learning curve soon after this video. So you must watch both these videos. So yes, in the end, hope you really enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and have a great day. This is Siddharth signing off. See you next time.